Denny, take it away.
Thank you, Bruce. With digital transformation, organizations are looking to automate more and more of their business decision, with the decision complexity continuously growing. So today I'm going to show you or deliver on the promise of DMN with Decision as a Service platform. Digital business are insight-driven. To turn insight into action, they rely on their ability to make the right decision. The challenge is that complex business decisions require a lot of real-time processing and different data sources. Today's decision automation solution rely on business rule management systems, which are basically just a box full of rules, or they rely on the current AI resurgence of machine learning, which is neural networks, which is just a box full of nodes. Both these solutions just do not meet the current decision automation needs. Rules are continuously changing and offering decision as side effects, where machine learning leads to black box AI and unexplainable decisions. Explainable AI is required if not mandatory. A black box solution will just not cut it. Transparency, provability, explainability are all mandatory requirements of today's business decision automation. And we've talked this morning about GDPR bringing some consideration into this. Decision automation based on DMN elevates decision as first-class citizens, provides a visual representation of the decisions, gives you a real what you model is what you execute, and is completely explainable decision automation. Trisotech is making the DMN vision for decision automation a reality. We're providing a decision management suite that is the premier decision as a service platform based on DMN. It's complete with modeling, execution, governance, and testing. The decision management suite is composed of three elements: a DMN modeler, a cloud execution engine, and a service library. Together, these components allow one to create, package, test, and manage DMN decision services. This decision management suite can be used as a launchpad for composite apps, knowledge distribution, microservice architecture, business automation, and even some new revenue models that can be created from your decision service that you can expose publicly. The Decision Management Suite offers a full lifecycle management platform for decision service APIs for composite apps. So basically, you can create orchestration with different applications like Microsoft Flow, BPMN, and expose these services. Simple environment, the user creates a DMN model in the modeler, then one-click publish to the execution engine, which expose all the decision service to the catalog, and these services can then be orchestrated in external apps. The Trisotech DMN modeler not only supports the complete fill and box expression, it now also supports visual definition of decision service, test cases, import reuse, and a centralized dictionary. The Cloud Execution Engine is a powerful engine. It's a fast and scalable DMN decision engine that fully supports decision service execution, service documentation, service testing, and service usage audit. The service library offers a simple-to-navigate service catalog where you can define different execution environments, you can select API options and API versions, and you can do invocation via templates and API invocation tests. So decision service execution, DMN decision service, can be orchestrated by external application using a REST API. Trisotech offers 3 input mappings and 2 output mappings for this API. Decision service documentation provides a description of the REST API based on the Open API standard. Open API is a vendor-neutral, portable, and open specification for providing technical metadata of REST APIs. Decision service testing is based on the DMN TCK. So we offer 2 ways of doing TCK test cases, either right in the DMN model itself or external decision test case that can be executed via REST call. We also offer a rich HTML form So that offers a form for all the defined decision services. So this interface displays the form where you can provide all the inputs and receive the output from the decision. We also provide the execution usage audit. In there, you have the statistic of the decision service, number of decision invocation per period, who did the invocation, date and time, any error message, and naturally the collected data of the decision service. So I'm going to demo to you how Trisotech is delivering on the DMN promise by providing an environment that has a one-click user experience, centralized dictionary, validation and testing, complete governance both at design time and runtime, and that we offer decision services that can be orchestrated in any kind of applications. I'll now switch to the demo, and I'll put my demo glasses. Okay. So what you have here is the Trisotech environment. We have many multiple applications in there. I'm going to specifically go into a DMN model, which is a pricing example. So in here, I have a decision model, DMN, where this is to select the best pricing offer to a client. So the pricing is basically on the rental pricing, ordering, and sub-order. So within the environment here, we have the normal thing that you would expect for doing visual modeling. We have complete syntactical validation of DMN. We also have decision table analysis based on the method and style that Bruce wrote. We have the capability of doing includes. We can export in structures. We have complete teamwork environment where you can do governance of your versions. We have also a decision animator that allows you to validate the logic of the decision, so I can run them one by one here. A lot of people call this decision simulation. I don't know why. We're not simulating anything. We're actually executing the service. So, so that's the general environment. So now we also have all kinds of features. Like, for example, I can have a series of test cases defined. I can run them one by one. Then go look at my results, see my expected versus actual results. I can also just run all these tests if I want, which will do the same thing. We have different features to showcase the data type used within the different elements, the description of the different model elements, so I can do these things here. Now, the real interesting stuff, at least from my point of view, is we have this notion of scope here. So what the scope is in the parlance of DMN, it's really what we call the DRG. It's the decision requirement graph. It's the full DRG here, where it's fully searchable and filtering. So I can filter alphabetically or by elements, and I can search in there. So I can look for different elements in there and bring them in. So this is my scope. Now, this is where it starts, and I don't know. So here I have the rental request. So I can take the rental request that's already in this model, pull it into this model. And so people may want to do that because they, oh, I'm zoomed a little bit too. So people may want to use this because they want to unclog their diagrams and things like that. So now, DMN views names as unique within its scope. So, for example, this rental request here is the same as the other one. There's only one entity. So this is reused by reference within this context here. So let me just undo this here. So I have reused by reference there, but that's within my same model. Now, I can also go and do an include. So take an external decision model and bring it in my context. So I'll take the car damage responsibility here. I can give it a short name, CDR. And you'll see the reason why I do that is because names are unique within a DMN context, the entities that I'm bringing in are going to be prefixed with that name of provenance. So here's my CDR. So I can basically bring in my car damage type here. Now, having done that, you'll notice that I have a little lock here because this is reused by reference from an external entity. I cannot modify it locally. But if I go into my includes, you'll see that now, okay. So that was my include that I've done. So now I've taken one element that I have included. Now what I can also do is leave out the scope, which is my local scope, and go into the dictionary. The dictionary is where all the terms, and actually Bruce made me call it dictionary. I wanted to call it ontology, because it is an ontology, because it's not a dictionary, but anyway, it's called a dictionary. And it's basically an ontology because I have all these entities, but not just the entities, I have the full structure of the entities, all the relationship these entities have to other elements. So for example, if I go and upgrade based on promotion, bring it in, similarly I have my lock here because it's reused, but now because I took something that was external, the tool did an implicit include of the model this entity was from. So now I can go back to my scope, and you'll see that in my scope I have all my CDR that I short named there, and I also have now upgrade based on promotion.member database. So I did an import, an include of all these elements within. So you can have a fully centralized dictionary. You can visualize also right within here the description of the elements. So now you have all the description visible. You can turn that off. So we have a complete environment of reusing, creating in collaboration, and reusing. Now this is where nobody has seen this before because this is the first implementation of DMN of this. So now I'm going to create a decision service. And in DMN, a decision service has these two parts. You have the result, which is the top of the box, and then you have the included elements. And basically the lines that are crossed are defining the inputs that are in it. So rather than having the full model as a service, I can take sub-portion of a model and define them as a service. So here I've defined a service that is called LO, and it will offer me the best pricing offer, and it's going to take these inputs to it. And you can see now that I have new elements that showed up in my scope, which is my LO. I can similarly do the same and bring in a collapse service and call it the daily special. And then I can just click on the plus, so it's a collapse decision service. And then I can say, okay, the daily special is going to provide me as an output the loyalty price by day. I'm going to encapsulate these two services. So now my inputs are these. These are the encapsulated or hidden elements. And so now I'm defining what's visible at both ends of the decision service and created this decision service. So that's my, and if I look at just my service, I have my daily special. Or I can go right in here and just use the wizard and create a new service, which is weekly demo with typos and all. And I can just go in here, pick this, and define it like this. So now I have those three decision services that are defined. So I can define decision services and expose them. So that's the modeling environment. So the modeling environment is very user-friendly, simple, and supports the complete DMN elements. And I didn't show that, but if I go into one elements here, for example, the rank by pricing, here I have a full box expression environment where in this box logic I'm defining a user-defined function that I'm reusing here. And you can see with the coloring that we have code completion, code coloring to help you define things that are within your scope. So we have the full DMN 1.1 plus plus, almost 1.2. So that's for the modeling environment. So let me go back here. Close this up. Now, following up on this simple user interface, I can go into the execution and I can deploy this in the Trisotech Cloud Engine, or I can deploy this on the Red Hat platform, either the Drool or the decision automation tool from Red Hat. Here, if I deploy this to the cloud, as everybody would expect, it's a one-click deploy. So I want to deploy this thing. I'm going to deploy it in my test repository. I could select which repository I have writing to. I'm deploying this to test. I publish it, and it's done. It's published. So now that it's published, I can go into the service library, go into my test, and here's this model that I've published. I click on this model. I have this model now. I'm using latest version. I can choose latest, so it's always providing you the latest version, or I can specify a version. And here, I have all my different services that I've defined. So we've defined the LO service. I'm going to pick that. I have a picture here of my model that is in there. And then we can go through the different use case that I've talked earlier. For example, I can use the HTML form on it. So I can try this model, and right away this service is available. I have a value of 45, 25, and 12. I run it. It tells me that the weekly price of 12 was selected. I can go to the REST API, in which you have a fully documented REST API, so you have your endpoint. I can actually test this. I can try it out. I can put values in here similarly. 23, well, let's say 12, 123, and 34. I'll remove this list of inputs because I won't rely upon it. And I can just execute this, and it gives me my results. So I had an error because I deleted too much on my post. I have a full open API definition. So if I click here, it's going to produce to me the open API file for this. So this is a full description, meta model description of my decision. So you can see here, I have my LO service that I'm using the version latest from. It defines all my structure, all my inputs, and all my output, and the replies I can get for Open API standard. I can run the tests. So as I shown you, there was 3 test cases within my model. I can run them from here. So now within the runtime environment, I can run this. So I'm running out of time. I'm going to speed up. I can promote this from test that I'm in to demo or production. So I have full governance of it. Let me show you on the execution engine side. Then on the execution side, I have a full debug mode. So one thing I didn't show you, but I have a service that I've defined, which is a BMI service. And so let me connect this to prod. Then I can go. This is a little, let's say I'm 5'4". Tool's going to say I'm obese. And then you have the call you did, the answer that was reported to you. So for debugging purposes, this is just wonderful. We also can define different configuration of audits and traces. So you define the model, the services. Here I'm saying all model, all service inputs. I have a full audit log, so I can pick input and output, a time period, and get the full log and trace. Then we can do mining, we can do BI, we can do whatever we want with the full trace of the execution. So we have a really complete environment. And I don't really have time. Let me show you one more thing. We can also connect to API management environments. So WSO, for example, is one. API-G from Google, Scale 3 or 3 Scale from Red Hat. And I can just then expose these services. So here, well, not now. Here I've exposed the calculate BMI service, and I'm within the WS, and then it gives me, so now what I've done is I've created those services and I've exposed them publicly for public consumption, and then I can manage the subscription to these services and everything, and that can be in any environment. So I'm going to go to question now. I have all kinds of other stuff I could demo, but I want to leave time for a few questions. Yeah? Question, anyone? Yes?
I may have missed it. I apologize if I did. You said you had 3 test cases defined in your model. Did you show where the test cases were defined or how they were defined?
I didn't show how they were defined. I've showed here where I could have access to them. But basically, you can define test case very simply when you're in the model. So if I go into the execution of it, and here I can test, then it's going to offer me all the inputs. I can populate these inputs, and then I can save this as, once I run it, I can save it as a test case. Or from here, I can load one particular test case and run it. And it's probably not going to run now because I did a lot of editing to this model while I was doing the demo. But you can run your test cases like this. And the test cases are based on the DMN TCK structure that was defined in that group there. So we're using that to define the test case within the model or externally to consume them. So with an environment like this now, you can actually modify complex environment, orchestrate them from BPMN. So I have a little example. I don't know if I have time, but here I have a BPMN service, which is called Hello Patient. Hello Patient basically takes a patient ID, use the FHIR standard from HL7, which is a medical standard, go get the patient data, does an evaluation, medical evaluation, and then provides one of 3 outcomes, which is to either check out the patient, provide a referral for them, or send them to the hospital if they have high blood pressure. So I can go in here, and here's an environment that mimics an EHR environment. So if I change the patient, and I go and I take Lisa Coleman, and I run this, then the full BPMN service ran, call a FHIR service, got all the data of this patient, send it to the decision service to decide what kind of treatment to apply. Once that decision was made, decided to check out this particular patient. So what you just saw happening here very fast is the same as what's in here. So through the environment, went to FHIR, got the patient ID, vital signs were passed to the DMN decision service, and then based on the outcome of that decision service, I branched on my process. So now you can think of orchestration. Just next, Bruce is going to demo an actual Flow, Microsoft Flow application that orchestrate DMN decision as well. So, yes, Jim.
I know you don't like black box approaches like AI. Is there any way you could help me manage them if I'm stuck with them?
Yes. Well, it's not that I don't like them. I just don't think they're the proper answer to the problem of decision automation in the context of business. For machine learning to tell me this is a cat or this is a dog, it's wonderful. But for it to decide whether I live or die or whether I get this mortgage or not will require some explanation. So that's where it's lacking. It's very powerful technology. And within DMN, DMN has the notion of business knowledge model. So let me just go back here into home. And yes. Thank you, Bruce. So now I can bring a BKM, call it ML, and then within there I can go and define the decision logic, and this can be an actual invocation, and that invocation here can be field, which is the expression language of DMN, or can be a PMML model, which is a predictive model markup language. So any machine learning that you have that is expressible, constraint satisfaction that is expressible in PMML, I can call it from there and bring it in. So what it does, exactly. So what it does, a little bit like what Peter was presenting, where he had different predictive analytics and different things being combined, we can do the same here, but we'll do it within the context of explainable decision. So the PMML, we know exactly what contribution of information it will do within the symbolic type of treatment. Any other question? Yes, Lloyd?
So maybe a little bit on how the structure of the schema is to support this, in the sense that, that you created was kind of populating on its own the structure of the service call. Is there another way by which you can structure the data across several kinds of services within the same model?
Yeah, so within the Trisotech environment, we have it such that so behind everything we do in our modelers, we have a semantical graph where we maintain all the information from a deep semantic level. So when you define entities within DMN, for example, like a data input, I can reuse this data input as a data object in BPMN or a file item object in CMMN. It will have the same, and again, it's by reference, it's the same unique entity that it's reused. So for example, we have a lot of people right now in the medical industry that are doing a lot of that, where they'll have their vital sign, that are, like actually that's what I showed with the BPMN example here. With this example here, the vital sign and measurements data object here from BPMN is reflected as exactly an identical data element or a data input in DMN. So it's the same structured definition description.
So you work out the item definition in one place since it's reusable.
Yes. And we've also done the opposite way where we have field expression within BPMN and CMMN. So we can do field expression language in BPMN and CMMN.
Thank you, Denny.
Thank you.